Live.
All right. Hey, everybody. This is Coach Arnie. This is Arnie Fonseca Jr. with Health, Life, and Love. I always mix that up, but Health, Love, and Life. And tonight we have a very special guest. But before we get to her, let's talk about how we can connect with myself. Please, you can always find me on Instagram at Coach Arnie F, on Facebook, Arnie Fonseca Jr., or at Coach Arnie. I'm also on LinkedIn. Please find me there, Arnie Fonseca Jr. And I've been playing a lot on TikTok, kind of a fun little platform, at Coach Arnie or Real Coach Arnie, along with Twitter at Real Coach Arnie too. So there's plenty of places you can find me. Obviously here, there's so many different places now that this is going to be up. You can find us on different platforms where podcasts are as well. And there's my phone number for those of you also, 602-390-9144. But I want to get to our special guest because I want to give her plenty of time to talk about what she's doing. And it's really amazing because we had a conversation about some of this stuff a few weeks ago. So I first want to read a little bit about her. And her name is Terriann Muller. And she's got about 20 years of experience in corporate training. Terriann spent her career working to help Fortune 500 organizations as well as individuals to tap into their power and improve their ability to be and do and have more. Being drawn to personal development and human growth as a young child, Terriann considers it a huge honor and blessing to have worked with the late, great Zig Ziglar, as well as the global giant Sandler Training. She is now a certified coach and passionate wellness expert. Terriann takes her expansive skill set to follow her life's dream to help others see the world differently. As a grief coach, she focuses specifically on widows. These women are near and dear to her heart, having lost her husband nearly 8 years ago to an aggressive form of cancer. Her coaching model is three-pronged, helping widowed women to recover, reclaim, and redesign their life into a confident and independent woman. Terriann's most recent course just launched last week. She is the Dating Widow, and it's all about helping the participants to up-level their mindset, beliefs, and their life. In the program, Terriann helps the participants in everything from boosting confidence to how to write a bio that will attract the right kind of dates, to how to hold a photo shoot for their online profile, to how to act on a first date. Terriann is a lifelong learner and continues to taking courses and certifications and works with her own coach to keep her skill set sharp. Known for her ability to inspire change in others, both mindset and action, Terriann focuses on learning through engagement and reflection, as well as actionable tools to achieve results. She is highly interactive and engaging speaker and facilitator with unmatched authenticity, openness, and kind candor. Wow. I'm impressed, Terriann.
I want to hire me.
Yeah, let's go. Bring this woman on. She is the Dating Widow. So I tell you what, Terriann, let's just kick things off here. Why don't you tell the audience what your favorite quote is and why?
Okay, so I have two actually. One, my all-time favorite is Super Simple by Zig Ziglar, and it is, if you're happy, tell your face. You know, so many people walk around inside of their head and not realizing how they're presenting to the world. And so that's one of the quotes. The other one is, it takes, now I got to think, hold on, because I wrote it down. I knew I was going to mess it up.
That's okay.
Let's see. Oh, The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step by Lao Tzu. I love that because so many people get in their heads that they think they have to have all the answers out of the gate, whether it's, building a business or anything, having a baby. If we wait till we knew everything, we're never going to have that situation. And so just that first baby step.
And isn't it too about embracing the journey as well?
Yes, absolutely.
It's not, if we had all the steps figured out, it wouldn't be the journey, would it?
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. Because we don't know. The first step might lead to a second step, might lead to a door, might lead to a slide, might lead to a rope swing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then maybe a few more steps, and then, I don't know, a moat with an alligator in it. Well, I know.
That's true.
That's my life anyways.
Mine too.
Yeah, there you go. So how have you become the person you are today, and how does that tie into your current business?
So from the time I was a small child, you mentioned it in my introduction, I've always had a passion to help people. When I was a teenager, I didn't want to grow up to be a teacher or a nurse or a doctor or be in the army. All I knew is that I wanted to help people, and I wasn't sure in what capacity. It takes time to get that clarity. And honestly, who knows what's in store for me in the future? I don't think we ever arrive. We just continue on the journey. And like you said, the alligators and the moats, and we take those situations and they are huge character building situations. That it's so coined, you can either let a situation make you or break you.
Right.
And so, I guess, the person I am today is I can relate to so many people. I jokingly say that my family is like the Kennedys without all the money, because we have insane amounts of tragedy, young deaths. And, when you're going through a situation like that, you don't see how it's going to benefit you at all.
Well, let me kind of twist in here a little bit, because when I first met you, we met on LinkedIn, and I was going through my own discovery in the world of grief. Mm-hmm. And you gave me some very needed and different insight, because obviously your journey of 8 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Actually, more than 40 years. But anyway, that's
goodness. Story. Okay. Well, maybe you can talk about that if you want. We could have a whole slew of shows here. But you, as we, as this career has shifted for you, I mean, obviously from personal growth and working with these different organizations, and now grief, and now the dating widow, and guiding other women through this journey. Is there one thing that you wish you would have known about all this 40 years ago, that you have discovered now? Is there something that you wish you would have known earlier about all this?
We touched on it super briefly already, and that is to know that everything is part of your story. It's part of your journey. And somehow, some way, there is going to be some kind of good that comes from it. And
maybe that's the triumph, taking that tragedy, flipping it into triumph.
Yeah, absolutely. So just know, I mean, hindsight is 2020, right? If we only knew. And I try to convey to the women that I work with, just give it a minute, because things will begin to flip. That fog will lift, and you'll really begin to see victories.
I think I asked you this before. What is that? Is there a switch that flips, or is it a time? I mean, I know there's no time limit here on grief, and there's no, I wish I could be very wealthy if I knew this, but if the time limit, is there something to just triggers it? What happened with you, and maybe in your experience with other women, what is it that you have found in general happens?
You're right. There is no time. If we knew it, then we could give, people hope. And at some point in your journey, the fog just begins to lift. And that's actually an articulation that a client of mine shared with me recently. Just at some point, the fog began to lift. And that was true for me. If you're familiar at all with the disc profile, I'm a super high D and a high I. There's not a lot of C or S in me, which is interesting because I'm so compassionate for people, but that can be confused too. I called the hospice house about 2 weeks after my husband's passing, and I said, okay, what's the top 3 things I can do right now to get over this? And they laughed. They still laugh about it. One of my best girlfriends was the executive director of that organization, and she said they still talk about it because it just doesn't work that way.
Well, your personality type with disc, because I do a lot of work with disc, is very similar to mine, except I'm probably not as nearly a high a D as you are. I'm probably got a little more I, a little more interactive. But I could see myself doing the same kind of things. What are some things that I need to do to get over this?
I'm just saying,
I could see myself asking the hospice folks, okay, so what are a couple of things here that I could work on to get past all this?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if we had that, we could give it to you, but they don't think that way, obviously. And so I can see that, because you've been around it for so long, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially being around people like Zig Ziglar and those types of folks. I actually had a pastor friend of mine. We had a long talk one night, and he was telling me, because I was struggling, and he told me about Zig Ziglar and his wife. Zig Ziglar's wife didn't really understand what he was doing. And he would come home and he learned to ask her to tell him about her day.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's this positive, outgoing, inspirational guy, and she didn't get it. And so he learned to get her involved by talking about her day and what she was doing, because it's like the old adage, opposites do attract, and they do.
Yeah.
And then you better figure stuff out, because at some point they're going to attack, and then they're going to retract. And we want to figure this out first,
right?
So that we can make that more like this. Because when we get into what I call repression, right, it can go sideways very quickly. So taking that in consideration, what do you do? I'm going to ask you 2 questions here. I want you to give us the answer. What do you do, and how does it impact others? And where do you believe your strengths are, and how do they apply to the Terriann coaching, or Terriann Muller coaching?
Okay. You made me think of Bueller. So it's actually
more, like, whoa.
Yeah. So, my heart, and back to what you said about Mr. Ziegler and the redhead and how they learned to have a cohesive marriage when he's out just, blowing up everything amazingly. And she needs to still be validated. I think that those, people like Mr. Ziegler, and it's certainly true for me. I care so much about how somebody's feeling, to the point that it can be detrimental to me. That's a whole nother rabbit trail. What I do is, my gift is connecting with people, and I care so much, and I'm passionate about helping them to see themselves in a better light, in the best light, and to be able to step into that power as a human being, as somebody that can contribute, and then really help them to see their value. And so that's my gift. Let's see, I wrote a few things down. No, and I said it all. So that's really it. Just being able to put themselves out to the world in a way that they feel good about the way that they're showing up. And so I talked about my strengths, and that really is with the ability to connecting with other people. And it doesn't matter if they're a CEO of a Fortune 100 company or they're the maintenance man at McDonald's. It doesn't matter. I just have a heart for people. And so that's really what I think my gifts are. I talked about how I connect with people. So I didn't realize it until just a few years ago that I'm what they call an empath. And being an empath really is a gift and a curse in the sense that you can, you can take other people's pain on. And I would. Sometimes I would be driving down the street and I would see somebody walking down the street and I would feel like I could feel their pain and sadness, and I would start crying and I didn't know why. And so it's been a huge learning curve for me to be able to channel that empathy into a strength instead of a curse for myself.
Well, let me throw in maybe another little side question here as far as grief goes and how you kind of weaved your way into this niche. And then we'll get into more about the dating widow, but because that's my curiosity here with grief. I was Googling and talking to people and looking into certification because obviously grief is part of life. Mm-hmm. So when obviously you said earlier that 40 years, you've been dealing with grief for 40 years. So my question is, did you know you were grieving? Was it something you wanted to learn more about? Was it something you wanted to work through? Was it a feeling you didn't like? What was the connection, the draw, the energy around grief for you?
So if I understand your question, I think what put me into that state is my sister was tragically killed. I was 15 and she was 20, and she literally fell off the back of a motorcycle and got ran over by a cement truck. I mean, who the hell can say that? And I do. I mean, I laugh because it's so bizarre. And my parents, one of my older sisters came from another part of the state when my sister died, and my dad walked in. I didn't know this until after my husband died, but he told Linda, there will be no grieving in this house. Or
your dad said that.
Excuse me, not grieving, crying. Yeah, there will be no crying in this house. And I didn't realize it, but instead of staying home and drawing near to my parents, my mom had her lipstick on and she was still doing good, and they just didn't know how to grieve. So I did it in my own way, which included drinking Jack Daniels down the street with friends.
Yeah.
And so, my grief was, I didn't have any direction or support. And then that was true. I had another brother that was tragically killed years later. And so I didn't grieve. But what it can do is it can really knock you on your hiney. It all catches up with you. So you asked earlier, how can you get through it, or how long does it take? Honestly, the biggest tip I would give is to lean in and press in to those feelings rather than try to push them at bay.
Right. So is that what drew all the, I mean, crazy stuff, obviously, but that has drawn you into being the expert you've become in grief? That's something you just wanted to learn more about, or was it to help yourself, or something you felt driven to do to help others first, or was it to help yourself first?
I would just say that it's my inordinate amount of experience. I went on a mission trip with my church to India. And I got home and I knew I was at a crossroads. My husband had been gone for about 5 years and I was still doing corporate training and I didn't love it anymore. And so I was praying and I'm like, God, I know I have these gifts. I know I have these experiences. What am I supposed to do with them? And literally from my mouth to God's ears to Facebook, I got on and I saw this program for people that wanted to be coaches. And I was already a certified health coach. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. So I started the program not knowing really what my niche was going to be, but everything pointed toward supporting widows. And I learned so much when my husband died because I wasn't able to run from the grief anymore.
Yeah.
There was my mom died in the meantime, right before my husband. My son died after my husband.
Your son died?
Yeah. Yep. He died.
Holy moly.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to think. I wasn't a coach at that time when Travis died, but I just really felt led to be in this niche and to help people to process their pain and to go through those dark moments where you don't know where to turn, and then be able to come out of that into the light and be okay and use those lessons and situations as strengths.
Wow. Well, then why don't you just take this moment now? I think it's a good transition to tell us about Renegade Widow and the Dating Widow, and how do you facilitate your courses and support women who are widowed?
Okay. So a couple different things. Renegade Widow is my signature program. It's the first program that I built, and everything is done remotely. So I can work with anybody around the world, much like this. We use a platform called Zoom, and we have one-to-one coaching sessions on this platform. And then in addition to that, there's a lot of coursework that comes with it, modules and exercises and tons of, if they have a situation that they need some extra coaching, and I immediately put another module together or something for them to do to actually give them practical steps. And so that's Renegade Widow. And most recently, it's been on my heart for a long time. Even before I started Renegade Widow, I thought, oh my gosh, I want to start a dating website. Well, then I thought that was such a great idea until I realized I needed, a couple 100,000 people as inventory. And that's a lot for one person, I think. So it's been on the back burner for a while. And in my private Facebook group, we have several hundred people, almost 1,000 women in there. And that's really a topic that gets some energy around it. And they want to talk about that. And so I pulled the group and they said, yes, they want to learn. And so we launched it last week. It's an 8-week course covering a lot of the things that you mentioned in my introduction.
Wow. Yeah. Cause that's, as a relationship coach myself, I love the whole, dating aspect, because it's something I tease people about when I do workshops on relationship, because we don't date anymore. The younger folks, the millennials, they hang out. Everybody's hanging out.
Yeah.
And they don't date, because to me, dating is about learning about the other person, asking those questions that we need to ask so that we don't get ourselves in situations where it can be very costly, if you know what I mean. And that's what dating's about. Dating's about learning the personalities, about the families. What are your non-negotiables? And you also get to find out who you really want to be with, because a lot of people, and I'm sure you're finding this out, and maybe, you can expand on it a little bit. I know that a lot of men, especially, they may know what they want. It may not be realistic, but they may know what they want. No, seriously, because I have them do that. I have individuals make a list of everything they want in that person. I mean, no, we're not making any rule. Just whatever you want.
Yep.
Okay. And then I have them stare at that, and I go, now here's the tough part. You have to come up with a list of all the things that you have to change in yourself to attract that first list. And they go, oh, ooh, because that's the only thing you can control. You can't control anything else. You can want it all you want, but you're the only one that can change that. Because years and years ago, guys would say, I'm gonna find me a woman that's gonna fix me. It's gonna change me, keep me in line. That doesn't work anymore. Right. That's a joke. That's a recipe for disaster, right?
It is.
So, but I'm telling you, I still run into ladies that end up with guys that they're trying to fix. And it's like, don't do that.
It's awful.
It's horrible. And I just feel so bad for them. Instead of, another in the hit, because this is one of my passions, is the whole divorce thing started back in the early 70s. Because I remember when my parents split for just a little bit, I felt so awkward. I was just in, I think, 5th grade. I felt like, because none of my friends had divorced parents. It was rare. If there was a divorce, like, ooh, your parents are divorced? That's weird, right? So I didn't want anybody to even know that my dad had left, right? So, and then all of a sudden, we started figuring things out, because women who originally married for safety and security, and then they figured, well, I'll have some kids and get love, right? Because kids love you unconditionally, don't they? And all of a sudden, they made a miscalculation there. The kids grow up, get boyfriends and girlfriends, and they go, oops, doggone it. Yeah. There goes the love out the door. And then they look at the guy across the way there in the easy chair, scratching his belly, going, who the heck is that? And then they figure, well, I'll go out and find love. And so hence the divorce rate skyrocketed in the late 70s and early 80s. It just went off the charts because
it hasn't recovered. It hasn't come back.
Yeah. And so, but because we don't know, are you looking for, that's why when I do a lot of stuff, it's because women generally are looking for safety, security, love. And until love surpasses that, it's a struggle. And men are looking for significance, appreciation, love. And until love surpasses that, it doesn't really work out. So are you finding then with these ladies that you're having to bring some clarity to what they really need and want?
That's exactly where we start to begin. I was going to look here because I have my module titles here, is really getting that clarity, setting some, not really goals, although I think they need to have goals to get themselves in a position to be able to go out into the dating world.
Or what I'll call it as a wellness guy, as an exercise physician, we're talking about dating shape. How's that?
Yeah. Yes. Becoming dateable.
Yeah.
And, and I help them to learn how to become the person they want to date.
Well, I like that.
It's in my, I write it in the modules. On every single module, it says, just like you don't want to date a Dudley deadbeat or something, he doesn't want to date a messy Matilda. If you show up as a hot mess, they're going to run the other way unless they're codependent and they want to fix on either way, man or woman. It goes both ways.
I find a lot of ladies, when I talk to them about this, it's the first thing comes out of their mouth. I don't want anybody using drugs and alcohol, because all the things that happen to them.
Yeah.
No drugs and alcohol. Those are like their non-negotiables. I go, whoa, okay, I know what happened to you.
Right. And then they overcompensate, and that's a whole nother kettle of fish.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, so you're getting these ladies in dating shape. And so, let's go back to another question here then. Okay. Because this kind of maybe feeds into how you created your program. When you started dating after your husband passing, what is your biggest failure, and how did you learn from it? So you're kind of putting yourself into their shoes because you were there at some point.
And I need to actually check. I did write some notes, but the thing is,
or basically, let me refresh that for you. When you got thrown in the dating world without a dating widow coach, were you in dating shape, Terriann?
I actually was. I was.
So you were ready.
I was. I actually, after my husband passed, I feel like I was put in timeout because I couldn't run from the grief anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a year taking care of me, getting my health in the best shape. I had just taken care of my mom as a cancer patient, and then my husband. So I was a little bit rough. I mean, I was feeling kind of crummy. I was having some health issues. And so I spent time, I worked with, of course, a grief counselor, but I also had a health coach. I had, what else did I mean, I have a whole list. I did everything. I worked with a naturopathic doctor because I tend to go towards Eastern medicine before Western medicine. And I was fit, I was trim, I like to exercise and hike and be outdoors. And so I really was in a position to do that. And so that's what I really encourage the women.
You made a conscious, that kind of goes back to one of my original questions. You made a conscious effort, it sounds like, to get in dating shape, which means somehow, somewhere in that 40 years, and then your husband, and then all the things that went on in your life, something clicked and said, now, get in shape. You're going to move on with your life. You're going to meet somebody special. You're going to meet your soulmate because you know how to do this doggone thing. And you know what you don't want. You know what you want. And you've done all the changes you've made to attract what you want, right? That's a big deal.
It is. And in that regard, it wasn't intentional. I'm a big believer in taking care of myself anyway. So it worked out.
So you were doing it through the grieving process with your husband along the way?
I was. Wow, yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. And it wasn't because, oh my gosh, I have to have a man, because honestly,
I got to interrupt. Forgive me. How many of the ladies in that hundreds and thousands of people on your Facebook group, do they look at you and go, how the hell did you do that? I can't do that. Mm-hmm. So what do you do to them?
I start them at ground zero and we work our way through it. I help them in the dating widow. We're going to talk about clarity and what it is that you want. And we'll actually create that avatar of the ideal man for them. Then we're going to talk about what they're eating, if they're moving their body. I'm a holistic, I cover it all, because again, you don't want someone to show up looking like a dime and she's a hot mess inside.
Yeah.
That has no, there's no meat to that type of approach. And so, I was sitting home one Sunday afternoon and I made myself a nice dinner. I poured myself a glass of wine and I thought, man, I can't keep counting on my married friends to entertain me. And I'm going to get on a dating website. It just kind of struck me. And I did. And this is going to make everybody think, what the heck? My very first match date is the man that I'm in. We are so in love. We're in a wonderful relationship. We've been together now.
One and done.
Well, kind of one and done, but we both kept dating because you don't. Okay. Here's a big tip. You don't meet someone and you hit it off and then you become exclusive. You cannot. We both continued to date for a while. And
so you're teaching your ladies, your tribe, to date.
Yes, date.
Learn about what you want.
You don't want to show up looking like a floozy. You want to look like Arnie, you teach people how to treat you.
Mm-hmm. You do. I tell ladies, I just got off the phone with somebody earlier today. I said, don't expect us men to know what the heck you want us to do. You need to tell us. You need to help us. We're not that smart. Yeah. We're dinosaurs. It's true. Yeah. It's
men are created to pick up.
You need to tell us, hey, I need you to listen right now. I need you to do that. We like that. Don't expect us to just figure it out. That's not the way this brain works. And when you guys figure that out, it makes the relationship so much better. But that takes practice, which is called dating.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get married and figure that out, because it may not last very long.
Absolutely. I know personally 3 couples that are in their 50s. They rushed marriage less than a year of dating, and they're getting divorced.
Yep. I've
3
seen
of
that.
them.
I've seen that, because the second time around, they don't have the patience.
No. And so one of my modules is called slow. I have to look at it again. Again, this is so new, but it's like, slow down, damn it. You don't have to rush things.
You don't. I mean, there are no rules here. That's why I wrote a book when I had a college course 27 years ago. And I had a gentleman I was working with, a marketing guy, 8 years ago. And he got a biggest kick out of it, because on page 1, I had the number 1 rule is there are no rules. It's true. That had a lot to do with fitness and wellness stuff, because there aren't. You know, when it comes, I teach a principle called hopeful, which like you, I'm very holistic. My first step is healthy nutrition. Yeah. Because if you're not eating right, I mean, to me, exercise and nutrition, you're 90% of the way there. And then it's about doing the things that you're doing, optimizing the environment, having a purpose, and all these things. Plus I, do a lot of work with faith as well. But these are things that we can be coached in and be encouraged to do. And I'm sure you're doing all those same things. The problem is, like you just expressed very well, when you don't have patience and you rush into this thing, especially this thing, the most complicated thing on the planet, intimate relationship. And what I've found a lot of couples will do, they'll take their bag of garbage and they'll throw it on the bed. And then the other person takes their bag of garbage and they'll throw it on the bed. And then they try to have an intimate relationship. How does that work?
It's a mess.
Yeah, it is a mess. And that's where someone like you, the expert, because not only you're the expert, I think it's because of you have empathy because of your incredible background. Holy crap. I mean, because just about anybody can throw crap at you and you can say, well, let me tell you what I've gone through. Yeah. And how I dealt with it. If I were to say it all out loud at the same time, I have a hard time not laughing. I know that's sick, but you're like, how can this anyway? Well, and I think it comes with experience, because, obviously you and I have experience. I mean, my background with where I've learned a lot of this stuff is working with traumatic brain and spinal cord injuries. So I've seen about just about anything crazy you can imagine. Okay. I've experienced death in my family. I've experienced tragedy in my family, and just about everything you can imagine. Nothing like some of your crazy stuff, but at the same time, it gives me that vulnerability, and talking about, like you and I are talking about it right now, gives me power, because when you're vulnerable, you have power, because nobody can hold it over Terriann's head and say, you don't have any idea what I'm going through. Really? Yeah. Let me share some stuff with you, young fella. And so I think that's great. And I love hearing that kind of vulnerability from someone like you as a coach, because, it's like the old adage. I think you and I may have talked about this early on, but when we first started talking, was that, when you get a 21, 22-year-old life coach, I mean, unless they're helping you with IT problems or how to fix your Apple iPhone or no, seriously, or totally, or reprogram something, or I don't know, but they're not going to help you with life. It's just not possible. I mean, God bless them. They may, hey, look, I was real good. When I was a young school teacher, Terriann, I had people coming to me when I was 22, 23, 24 years old with, pregnancy and girlfriend stuff. And I liked all that stuff. I appreciated it. Thank God I knew how to walk that fine line, because I could have got myself in a lot of trouble. But I developed some skills on communication.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't. I was just giving them stuff off the top of my head. Hopefully it was okay, but but charging that people thousands of dollars to give them life, lessons, that's
Mm-hmm.
tricky.
Mm-hmm.
And it's potentially devastating. Whereas you can give them more of a very reflective, seasoned response that is strategic. Like, hey, follow, like I'm sure your plan is, follow these steps.
Yeah.
And you have a better chance of being successful, right?
Yeah. And one of the things that I want to make sure that we cover before we're out of town,
Yeah, go ahead.
time, it's just that one of the things I teach the gals that I work with is two halves do not make a whole, in the sense, if you have a man here and a woman here, and it's that they're the walls of a house, if they're always together and codependent, the roof's going to fall in. And so I really work with the gals to become that whole, healthy, independent person and show up not needy, but comfortable and confident. And then you come to the point where some women are so strong it scares men. I mean, there's just so many dynamics. It's interesting. It's fascinating to me. I love taking it all apart and social psychoanalyzing it.
Mm-hmm. So, why don't you take the next few minutes, Terriann, and really, number one, let people know exactly how they can find you, how they can learn more about the dating widow, the renegade widow, all the social media platforms that you're hanging out on. Mm-hmm. Any other information that you want to share, and maybe any other tidbits about maybe possible resources that can help them now, or any other information or value you want to share with the audience.
Sure. So my website is, both are displayed, terriannmuller.com or renegadewidow.com. There's everything on the site that can help you to get a hold of me or to learn more about my programs. And I do have a business page on Facebook, as well as a private Facebook group, and for the widows, and they're both called Renegade Widow. Again, the Dating Widow coaching program is brand new, but we're taking rolling enrollments. In other words, it's an 8-week program, but you don't have to start on week 1. You can just enter in, and it's very organic. You do have the structure of modules, but yeah, so there's that. I'm on Instagram. I love Instagram, Renegade Widow. And also the Dating Widow is a brand new page on Instagram. Is that what we call it? We'd have to ask one of those 21-year-olds. And I'm on LinkedIn. I have a passion for helping business people. So some of the widows that I've worked with, or widowed women that I've worked with, are business owners, or, up in the executive suite of companies. It'd be silly not to use what I've learned over the last 20 plus years to not help business women. So I have a strong presence on LinkedIn as well.
Okay. And how about somebody, a resource that may have helped you along the way, that maybe you can give the audience something to kind of maybe do a little self-reflection on themselves, or something that they can learn tonight, and that maybe has helped you on your journey here?
I am a huge, huge advocate of journaling. Mm-hmm. And so I started that when my mom was sick, and my sister-in-law, who was married to my brother when he was killed, she would come over every night and she'd say, "You got to write that down. Are you kidding me?" I mean, just this crazy stuff. And so I really believe that journaling out your emotions and your feelings, and don't shy away from them. Lean in. There's lists of resources on my website. There's so many. I read every book that I could get my hands on. I listen to YouTube like it's going out of style. And learn so much. I'm a constant student, and I really encourage people to take the time to invest in themselves, not necessarily financially, but time. Spend the time journaling, spend the time reading, spend the time reflecting. And I do offer, and I should put this out there, I do offer a 1-hour complimentary, I call it a discovery session, because it helps us we'll figure out together what's going on and what they'd rather have be happening. And so I do offer that on my website. It just is under free conversation. And so you can book. My calendar's there. I love that so much, because I get to help shed a little bit of hope and light, and to show these women that there is going to be a tomorrow.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Terriann, I knew when I first met you that you have this special qualities, this gentle, loving spirit that allows you to be a blessing to these women, and obviously by the fruit here, you're showing that. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on to Health, Love, and Life, and sharing what you do. And I hope that the people here that are listening to this and will listen to it will contact you or join your Facebook group, or just take you up on, because I know that there's a lot of hurting individuals out there, and I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your heart and being vulnerable, and with all the things that you're doing in your life. And again, thank you for being there for these wonderful people. So thanks again.
Well,
and
thank you for
I
having
appreciate
me.
Yeah, and I appreciate being able to call you friend. And so thanks again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. And again, everybody, thanks again for being here. And again, you can look me up on all my social media platforms, Coach Arnie F, Real Coach Arnie on Twitter and TikTok. I'm having some fun with TikTok. It's a lot of young people. We're just having fun. So
I got to get on there.
Yeah, you do. And so get out there, guys. And I look forward to you guys again next week. And thanks again for Terriann for being here. And make sure, guys, or everybody out there, check out The Dating Widow and The Renegade Widow. And especially if you need some help, give her a call. Sounds like she can really help you. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate everybody. And look forward to seeing you next week.